All right, welcome back as we are just remembering a year since Hurricane Ida devastated, mangled, destroyed a lot of the HTV viewing area. And we're very pleased to have with us Senator Bret Allain, District 21. Very powerful positions, very powerful man. You hold the purse strings now on a very important Senate side, and welcome. Good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here as always.
Yeah. As we look back, we could talk so many projects. We could talk appropriations of money. We could talk a lot of things. But I want to sort of bring people back a year ago from a senator side, from state government, because a lot of people think they press on you all the time. I need 10 million to repair this. I need 20 million. We need this. We need that. But from a Senate side, take us back a year ago. We were laughing and cutting up a little bit before the show. We were smiling and laughing. But a year ago, I don't think we saw too much smiling, did we?
No, there was no smiling at all. I got here, maybe 24 hours after the hurricane had passed through, and it was finally safe to travel. And as I kept coming east, you saw more and more and more devastation. Finally, they were able to cut us a path so we could try to get to the emergency center, and that's where we got to. People were starting to congregate there to make plans, open communications. Cell towers were down. There was literally no communication that we normally deal with. The only way that emergency folks could talk was on the radio. So we were back to old school. Mm-hmm. The radios was the main communication. The governor did come. I don't remember if it was that day or the day after, but that was the center of the universe as far as trying to put the pieces back together. And when we did finally get the governor there, we realized not very long into it that we'd lost 4 hospitals in the area. I mean, this is unprecedented. Mm-hmm. They all didn't have enough wind load for the roofs. The vacuum of 180 mile an hour wind lifted off the roofs off of Chabert, Terrebonne General, St. Anne's, and Our Lady of the Lake. So literally everything down the bayou. There was no medical work. People are trying to pick up the pieces of their lives, lifting debris is dangerous. So we had nowhere to bring people except maybe to triage them in a tent on the side of Terrebonne General. And I remember vividly the meeting that we had between us, FEMA, the governor, Kim Beats, who's the regional director for LDH in the area for the hospitals, and Phyllis Peoples. Mm-hmm. And we were all there saying, we got to do something, guys. We got to get emergency people in here. We got to have it. Thibodeau General was, I guess, the next closest, but they were overwhelmed and almost immediately on divert. And I was worried about the safety of the people. And them.
COVID going on too.
You said that, but COVID and the dangers of COVID were so far down the list than what we were trying to deal with at the time.
I guess you have to put one emergency on top of the other.
On top of the other.
Yeah.
But it was definitely, I poor Phyllis, I saw her not sleep for days on end. The walkthroughs, and she was discovering water in different sections of the hospital, as they were with all the hospitals. Mm-hmm. So number one was trying to get emergency support in the area to try and do it. Had on top of that, got reports down from Loop, who was completely shut down. As you know, they have this huge brine pit that they use to get the water out of the caverns. They store millions of barrels of oil in the caverns, and the nation depends on that as part of the feedstock. Well, the water didn't overtop the levee in South Lafourche, but it overtopped the levee of the brine pit. So you had all of this fresh water sitting on top of the salt water that had to come off. If you didn't do that when they put the when they use brine to float it out, and that way the caverns don't expand anymore. Well, with all this fresh water, if they'd have put that in there to retrieve the oil would have come up, but you'd have sacrificed the integrity of the brine store. I mean, of the caverns that all this oil is stored in. Mm-hmm. So we were literally, fighting it on both ends, trying to take care of the needs of the people first in the flooding, and then trying to get pumps over to Loop so they could get up and going. The rest of the nation was dependent on it. So it was and Fouchon, with the devastation that happened there. I'm sure you talked to Chet. My second trip was over to go see Chet. I think I was the first legislator to get in there, and he lost half his.
I think that's when I started using the word mangled.
Mangled, yes. Seaport, I think A and C were mangled. Mm-hmm. But I was down there recently, and I mean, you could still tell buildings that are not back, but they seem to have the majority of their business going again.
Yeah, we better have progress in that area, or the nation suffers. I know you get so many more phone calls when you're in that position than you ever thought you'd have, right?
Well, you take it with stride. We knew what the job was going to be. I was lucky enough to land in this position. Actually, it was probably my second choice. I'd served 8 years on finance, and doing the budget, but Jerome Zarang was on the House side as appropriation chair. Right. So I decided to pivot and take over the capital outlay process, the Rev and Fifth chair, which oversees all the taxes of the state and its revenues, and also looks over the capital outlay, which is our purview. So
capital outlay is a big place to be.
Yeah. It's been quite a challenge. Look, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work, but you get to, I tell people all the time, I only look like Santa Claus. I'm not Santa Claus. Actually, this year it was tough because we had money. Yeah. We finally, the whole time I'd been there, we didn't have money. And in the past, it was, you'd look at somebody and you say, look, we can't fund your project. We don't have any money. Well, I had no excuses this time. Right. I had to look at some of them and go, no, they're more important projects, and we're not doing yours. So
that's a tougher place to be.
It's a tougher place to be.
When you can say no with a straight face, it's tougher than saying, well, maybe. Yeah. Let me ask you this, because, and I'm going to get to Bayou Chene in a second, but it never hit me so hard when I was on the air live and we were showing the Golden Meadow floodgate, and window curals in a hospital, I think in Raceland, they were watching us. They couldn't see the monitors or the floodgate or anything. We still had the camera up. And he says, well, I think we're at about 12 feet. I said, where's the weld mark where y'all added on to the floodgate? He said, well, that's right at 11. I said, well, we're 5 feet over that right now. We're at 16 feet water level in Golden Meadow. And all I remember the silence and the, oh my. That's what we were up against.
Yeah.
Which pivots me to West. You spearheaded the Bayou Chene floodgate. You fought hard for that. You secured it. Takes care of 5 parishes. But I want to give you the floor because as we start to pivot looking forward, away from Ida, that's going to be invaluable. Yeah. So congratulations and thank you for that.
Well, it was a huge $80 million project. When I got to Baton Rouge 11 years ago, it was not part of the master plan. It wasn't even on the radar of anybody, and we just gone through severe flooding in that area. I mean, it's hard to see a whole community of people that scared where they're fixing to lose everything they got, because not everybody can afford flood insurance, obviously. Mm-hmm. And I said, if I ever have the chance, I'm going to do something about it. So one of my first big arguments in Baton Rouge was arguing with Garrett Graves, who was head at CPRA at the time. This project needs to be included. And they were more about the big sexy projects where they build land and they do restoration. I said, no, my people need this. And took us a couple of years to get it on the master plan. And finally, when some revenues came around, we were able to get it funded. But this is going to hold back the floodwaters, whether it's river flooding or hurricane flooding.
Right.
This is going to hold back the floodwaters to 5 different parishes. I mean, Stevensville, Bell River, Pierrepont, all the way up to Iberville, coming this way to Gibson and Bayou Black and all of those areas that historically flood. They won't have to worry about the flood anymore.
And it's incredible, Senator, because I remember covering several of the floods. I think it held back about 39 inches or close to it. That's a lot of water coming even to Terrebonne Parish.
Exactly. I don't know how many inches it held back, but I was on one of the original barges that we sunk to hold back the flood in 11. And the water on this side was a hell of a lot higher than the water on this side.
It was 39 inches,
Yeah.
which is incredible.
Well, imagine high water in Gibson and add 39 inches to it.
Right.
You would wipe out whole communities.
Yeah. But you saw the need, and as we winded down this segment, as we've taken a look at that whole area, but there's hardly ever a project that you could spin that, like the Bubba Dove takes care of Terrebonne, but the Bayou Chene takes care of 5 parishes. Right. So I guess when you go to people and say 5 parishes, it makes them look a little harder, doesn't it?
It does. It does. Well, there was such a need. It just needed a champion to explain to everybody what the need was and why we needed to do it. And I was happy to do it, and I was happy that we ended up. It's a fully functional gate right now. We cut the ribbon on it, the whole 9 yards. So that thing can be closed within a 24-hour period.
We're filing divorce on Ida, and we're trying to mentally move past. I was thinking this morning when I woke up, how mentally tired everybody who's been covering, myself included, just mentally tired we are of. We were already tired from COVID, then Ida hit, and it just sort of sucked the oxygen right out the room. But we have to make that break. You as a leader in the state, what kind of advice would you have to people? I know people are still trying to rebuild, still trying to do it, but maybe we can stop and smile every night.
Yeah, well, it's nice to smile. That was a difficult time, and like you said, it probably is time to have that divorce, to get away from it. But for a long time, it's consumed the efforts of a lot of people just trying to put the pieces back together. GOSEP and their response. I do want to give a shout out to GOSEP and what they did, even parts of FEMA, that they finally are, I think, coming through with some of the funding that they promised. And look, nobody argues more with John Bell than I do on a regular basis, my position in the Senate. But I got to give him credit on this one. He was here, he was engaged, he had his people engaged, and he was really trying to do the right thing. Like I told him, that doesn't mean I'm going to start saying nice things about you, but a lot of respect. He
is a nice guy.
He is a nice guy, and I kid him all the time about that. When we did the ribbon cutting or whatever, the presentation at the new aisle right down the road from here, all those people that with the place from the island.
Yeah, Jean Charles.
Jean Charles. But he even teased me about him and I getting along. But look, I have a lot of respect for him. He tries to do the right thing. He has his politics. I have mine. But he deserves credit on this one.
Yeah, he definitely came down and with floodgates.
Yeah.
I mean, I tell people all the time, throw out the Democrat, the Republican, or whatever. He came down, he opened the checkbook. When all these staunch Republicans are talking good about a Democratic governor, There's something to be said for that.
Yeah.
So he brought the checkbook, he opened it up, and of course, y'all were helping on the appropriation side, getting it done. But it takes everybody to make something happen.
Well, it was our checkbook. It's the legislative checkbook, but we agreed we agreed to agree on what needed to be done, and a lot of it was federal funds too. But look, he came with the first emergency money. He got money stashed away to deal with these type of emergencies. We added to it, but I mean, we had to do it. You know, there were too many people in need. There were too many people suffering. We had to do what we needed to do, regardless of who was in the Senate and who was in the governor's mansion.
Can we talk about, and what I try to do when I'm talking to people, and maybe I have the luxury of saying this because I started on the air in '85 when Hurricane Juan came. We didn't have Bayou Shane. We didn't have Bubba Dove. We didn't have all these flood control structures. We didn't have anything.
You didn't have a levee.
Right. So I'm sitting here going, and I'm gonna use the word bitching on TV. I got to, because that's what it is. Let's be real. When people are bitching sometimes about what we don't have, they need to go back 37 years and remember what we don't have.
Right.
And we've come such a long way. And it's not the water that we're really worried about. Although if you live in Cocodrie and you got the backlash, yeah, you're worried about water. It's the wind we worried about, and how do we can't stop wind. So, but water, we've come a long way, haven't we?
We've come a long way. I think we put the money in the right places. You know, on this end, you talk about one. I think most of the South Lafourche Levee District had been constructed, or the South Lafourche Levee had been constructed at that time. And the people in Terrebonne, there was no more federal money. We weren't going to, waiting on the feds to solve the problem here wasn't going to happen. And kudos to the people here. They tax themselves. They both property and sales tax, and they put up the money. And kudos to also to the people that run the Terrebonne Levee District, what they were able to get accomplished with that amount of money. If you'd have gone just with the federal money, it'd have taken 5 or 10 times that amount of money to accomplish what they accomplished. So, yeah, we are much better off. There's still a lot to be done.
Well, Senator, I appreciate you coming on. We're reliving the last year, but we're officially making a divorce papers. We're putting them in action, and we're going to move forward. I want to get you back in the next week or so to talk about the projects that are so important to this area. And thank you for being transparent. Thank you for being firm. And thank you for Bayou Shane.
Well, I don't know any other way to be. You know, when people elected me, they knew what they were going to get. Now, I think I've lived up to exactly that. So,
but aside from that, you're a pretty nice guy.
So some people tell me, will you tell my wife that?
All right, Senator.
Good to see you.
All right, we'll take a break. We'll be back. Don't go away.